Good evening, ladies and germs. Strings and pages, you found it. I'm Kevin Sullivan, your host. We're cruising right through the Rings of Hydra's Great Escape. We are on Chapter 15. Mild language, possibly. Shouldn't be too bad, though. Chapter 15, here we go. Setting things right with Reynolds and his crew did a lot to improve the quality of life on the job for the Hagen brothers. Once word got around that they meant business, no one else gave them any trouble. Foreman Thomas was put off at first. He'd had a feeling that Joe and David had something to do with Dizzy cutting his finger off, but could never prove it. There were cameras on site, but none in the area where the fight happened. He could have checked the GAD's Sky Eye footage if he really wanted to, but placing the formal request through the domain came with enough red tape that cutting through it wasn't worth finding out. Besides, it wasn't like anyone died that day. Even Dizzy himself said that he had an accident attempting to cut through a bolt. Which one? And why in the back of the lot? He couldn't explain. But if that was the story he was willing to stick to, it was one that put the ordeal to bed. C'est la vie. So that's how it went down. Dizzy never made another comment to Joe. Hardly ever looked at him other than to say good morning. And the rest of the gang went about knowing that the Hagen brothers took the lead when it came down to it. They were the lot's top dogs, and it seemed no one quickly forgot it. The hours turned into days, and the days into weeks. Things moved forward at a steady pace on the site. The structures that began as simple beams and sheets of steel were now the shells of nice homes. Wiring and plumbing were underway, along with some of the bells and whistles that came with the modern-day cube. Both David and Joe's cubes were built simultaneously, kept at an even pace in the process, so that on move-in day, they would both be ready to go. And every night, Joe and David left the beautifully budding cluster and returned home to their sad, tiny, rusting cube in the center of their poverty-stricken neighborhood. The anticipation of finishing and moving was almost too much to bear. Life in the single cube was becoming drudgery, for as tiny as the cube was, matched with how large the Hagen boys were, it was simply not enough space for anything more than pure survival. They were tired of sharing the same four rusted walls, the same sounds, smells. They even seemed to be thinking the same thoughts at times, and this was becoming maddening. The one thing that kept the little family from blowing their lids was the knowledge that they would soon have much more space and a brighter future. The mornings and evenings would be gorgeous, given the new cube came with a seaside view. There would be no tall buildings pumping their soot all over everything living so close to the edge. The wind there would be too strong and constant to allow it to settle. The nearest neighbors would be a short walk away, not directly connected and separated by a few thin sheets of steel. The new neighborhood would be a friendly and safe place to take a walk, rather than an area where you were likely to get jumped. There were so many things that the Hagens looked forward to. There's so many reasons they couldn't wait to leave the sadness that surrounded them. Simply put, they couldn't wait. And they were getting closer by the day. The bar raged and spirits were high. Joe had pulled David out of the cube against his will to have a few drinks, perhaps a lock breaker. The newest addition to the Axe's drink menu. Once out, David opened up. He was a different person than the quiet man who didn't want to leave his family's side now that he had 3 drinks in him. "Can you believe it's actually happening?" David asked. He slung his arm around Joe's neck, practically yelling in his face, "We're doing it, brother! We're getting out of here! You were right, Joe! I should have never doubted you!" Joe took another swig and raised his glass. "To the new neighborhood!" he yelled. Reynolds and crew raised their drinks high in response, while cheers and whistles exploded from the line of bar-goers. Reynolds' guys cheered loudly. Dizzy sank his face into his mug. Down the line, Joe rubbed David's hair, then turned to the person in his arm, Jen Reed. Her smile was infectious and her look was piercing, even through the chaos of the crowded bar. "I'm so impressed by you," she said. "You showed up here, a couple of months ago?" She leaned in close and said so only Joe could hear, "And you guys pretty much own this place." Joe kissed her for the umpteenth time this evening. "It's all because of you," he said. "I want you to move into my cube with me when it's ready." Jen didn't answer right away. She seemed stunned by this statement. "Isn't that kind of fast?" she asked. Joe nodded. "It's light speed, baby. But for you, it's not fast enough. I'd take you there right now if I could. If I leave you here, I'll never spend any time in my new neighborhood." Jen blushed and laid her head into his chest. Joe kissed it and said, "I wouldn't even know about the place if it weren't for you, Jen. I want you there with me. Hey, if it doesn't work out, you can always move back, right? Yeah, it's fast. But I love everything about you. I can't get enough. What do you say?" Jen Reed pulled Joe Hagan's face in close and kissed him for a long time. People cheered. Dizzy kept quiet and buried in his ale. But one thing was certain. These two were made for each other, and the rest of the world could go scratch if they thought otherwise. Things couldn't get much better than this, at least for Joe. He had a bright future ahead of him, a new and amazing home to look forward to, surrounded by family, solid work with a stable income, and most of all, finding the love of his life. Joe's outlook was great. His brother's, it was decent at best, even considering the new place. David Hagan was feeling the drink, along with all of its effects. He was having a good time. He also kept going back to his loved ones. Melinda didn't beat around the bush when it came to her disease. She had written herself off already, just without putting an expiration date on her life. This crushed David. Equally terrifying was the prospect of raising his little boy without a mother. What was he supposed to do? How would not having a mom change Brian's life? How would David function without someone to care for his son? Was there any way to slow the progression of things, to stall the inevitable? The ultra-dronate whatever that the doc had given Melinda was clearly doing nothing, and this was soul-crushing. Many had died from this mysterious and devastating disease, but perhaps there still could be a miracle right around the corner. If not, David felt his and his son's lives were doomed. The neon lights and cheers of the bar lifted David's spirits a little. The prospect of moving to a new, spacious, and safe place was a real uplifter. But down inside, David Hagan's heart was heavily weighted. Then something caught his attention that probably shouldn't have, and weighed it just a little more. That damned glass. The same one that always seems to deliver nothing but doom and gloom. Why do they even keep that damn thing on? Above the bar, the figure appeared and began to speak. "I'm Biff Radhorn," it said. David knew this face well enough to be disgusted even by the introduction. Still, he was drawn by intrigue, still reading the closed caption words that streamed across the bottom of the screen. Tonight's stories include a Ring 5 quadrant dealing with major flooding from this year's El Nino event, a senator's black market food distribution network uncovered, 47 proclaimed dead on the outer ring after a fun mob party run. When will they ever learn? And lastly, waves of inner ring citizens are being shipped outwards. Why some of Hydra's elite are being pushed to the outer rings. All this and more when we return. That was it. David had had enough fun for one evening. He was reluctant to leave Joe out here with the rest of the wolves, especially Dizzy. Then he realized that it was okay. They knew not to mess with the Hagen boys by now. Joe would be fine. And David wanted his own family in his arms. It was time to go. "Brother!" he yelled. Joe broke from his trance and looked away from Jen just long enough to make quick conversation. "Yes, sir!" Joe shouted, high on life. David smiled in return. "It's time for me, my brother," he said. "Yes, sir!" Joe said again. This was the part David loved most about his brother. His ability to cut through the gloom and bring his spirits up. "You gonna be okay without me?" David asked. Joe smiled once again. "Yes, sir!" he said, and patted David's arm. "I had a feeling that was your answer," David said. "I'll see you at home, or somewhere." Joe broke off and gave his brother a great big bear hug. And when it was done, he went right back to Jen. And David headed for the door. Foreman Thomas was absent the following morning, which was the only strange thing about the day. Otherwise, it was business as usual. Hammers struck metal spikes and drills buzzed in the background. Machines hovered over the grate, moving large pieces of materials from here to there. Electricians carried spools of wire from one cube to another, while seagulls cawed in the background. David Hagen was on top of his structure, securing some pieces of electronics that would soon provide his family with something other than Biff Radhorn and more GAD propaganda. The day was moving along smoothly. Lunchtime. David bit into the cooked potato Melinda had packed for him, along with small cheese wedges. It tasted so good. Joe agreed as he ate his. Then again, Joe was still so elated from his recent time with Jen that he probably would have said the same about a raw onion. The brothers sat on a pile of grates and enjoyed their meal. As they did, they had some unusual company. "How's it going, Reynolds?" David asked. Reynolds had one other with him, as the rest of his crew sat farther down the line. "Not good," Reynolds said while approaching. He shook his head and placed his hands on his hips, looking disgusted. "Not good at all." At first, Joe thought this might be something he would have to defend, something that had to do with him or David personally. He stood from the grate and finished his meal in one last bite. "What's the problem now?" he said after swallowing. No, it's nothing like that," Reynolds said. "I just heard something I wanted to share. It's not good." He stepped closer. "I can't vouch for this, but rumor has it these homes are not for us." The Hagens looked at each other. They wanted to laugh this off. They couldn't. Even though this was only gossip, it knocked the wind right out of their sails. "If you can't vouch for it, then why even bring it up?" Joe asked. "That's bullshit, man. We've already done the deal, made it official and everything. Come on, Reynolds, where's this coming from anyway?" David flashed back to last night at the bar when he saw a snippet about some other people moving out here from the inner rings. He'd forgotten the details, but just the thought of it made him sit and stare blankly at the grate. He didn't want to believe what Reynolds was proposing, not at all. He also didn't want to go to that place, but the men around him were pulling him down. "Okay," Reynolds said, stepping closer yet. "You know my boy Miller? Dean Miller. You've met him a few times at the Axe." "Yeah, of course I know who he is," Joe said, nodding to the side. "He's working right down the road." "Yeah," Reynolds said. "Miller's got a contact that works for the domain, a relative or something, who told him that they're sending out a whole cluster's worth of Ring 7 hydrants to be put up in a development on the southern edge, here on Ring 2. Where else is there a new development anywhere on this ring?" Reynolds went on about how this information was passed from the GAD's data stream to the word-of-mouth channels that it was. Meanwhile, the Hagans wanted answers. Here and now. "We've got to find out what's going on," David said, standing and beginning to pace. "I saw something on the glass last night. Could have been related. I don't know." "Yeah, that's what I'm saying," Reynolds said. "I was there. I saw it too. And now I'm hearing it from Dean, and he says the source is reliable." "I know who will shed some light on this," David said. He held out a finger and pointed at the man walking onto the lot. "Foreman Thomas. Funny, he's been gone all morning. Let's see what he's got to say about all this." Thomas strolled over, wearing his hard hat, with rolled-up plans in his hand as usual. His face showed nothing new, good or otherwise. It was just Thomas. "Morning, guys," Thomas said, or afternoon at this point. "What's going on? You look like somebody died. Don't tell me Dizzy cut off another appendage." The joke would have typically landed well, but not today. Reynolds jumped right in. "What's this we're all hearing that these cubes are for somebody else? If that were the case, we should be at least getting paid proper wages for the work, but that's not even the point." "Easy, Ray," David said. "No need to yell at the boss." He looked at Thomas. "We're all a little shaken up about a rumor going around that these cubes aren't ours. Saw something on the glass last night, and I think it sparked some fires. Thomas, is there anything we should know, boss?" Thomas didn't answer right away. It was like he was processing, and then he was about to confess it was true. Then, after a pause, he began to laugh. "What? Come on, guys," Thomas said. "Don't you think that if I knew something so crucial that I would share it with you?" No one answered, so he said, "Of course I would tell you. And the answer is no. These aren't going to anyone but the hands that built them. Your hands. That's what the program is all about. You saw the documents, right? Think about that the next time someone starts spreading rumors." This helped a little, but even so, Joe boldly asked, "How was your morning, boss? You're always the first one here, but this morning there wasn't even a word from you. Kind of weird is all." Thomas looked annoyed as he answered, "I had a medical appointment that I almost forgot about." Remembered it at the last minute. "Everything's fine, guys. And on that note, lunch is over. Let's get swinging." Thomas shook his head and walked away. He'd calmed the fears of his workers, at least enough to get them to stay and work. Where else would they go anyway? David looked to his brother and shrugged, then to Reynolds, who shook his head and said, "I don't know, man. I feel better after hearing that, but I still got a bad feeling. Pretty much everything else in my miserable life has ended in shit, and I'm starting to worry this might be just another one of the same." Reynolds looked to the Hagans, a look like he wanted to apologize for his actions and his words, only he didn't have to. The Hagans understood. They were built from the same salt of the earth. They felt the same, and they shared the same concerns. "All right, Reynolds," Joe said, then nodded as he retrieved his hard hat and stepped back into what he now prayed would be his and Jen Reed's future home. This has been Chapter 15 of The Rings of Hydra's Great Escape. Thank you for your time, your ears, and imagination. Go ahead and smash that like and subscribe. It mean the world to me. Thank you so much. Love you. See you on the next